They say that everyone has a body double somewhere in the world, an exact replica of themselves, just walking around, living out their life, totally oblivious to you and what you're doing. Have you ever wondered about that? I have, certainly. Thus is the situation in tonight's story, another fantastic one from Mr. Outlaw, one of my favourite authors whose work I haven't visited in quite a long time, but I am most certainly back on the case from now on, with another fantastic story from him, and more to come very soon. Well, my dear friends, it's once again time to sit back and relax with your favourite drink, and listen. I'm an after-hours security guard for a medium-sized downtown office building. Not in a terribly dangerous city. Just, average. Glamorous, I know. Well, on top of that, I'm either losing my mind or in the midst of some really strange shit. A few nights ago, my boss gave me security tapes that he wanted me to look over. Apparently the guard that I rotated shifts with had quit, but it was a bit unconventional. He didn't give anybody any prior notice. It appears as if he simply left in the middle of his last shift, and we haven't been able to contact him since. On the same night, there'd been a break-in. Seemingly nothing stolen or damaged, just the front glass door, which was now shattered. Now, I knew about the break-in beforehand, but not about the guard. It was weird. But, well, this is kind of a shitty job, so it wasn't anywhere near shocking. My boss wanted me to try and identify who'd done it, and said that, the cops are lazy and it would take weeks for them to even look at it. His quote, not mine. Sure, it was an annoying request, but I guess it's on me for not finishing college. It was a pretty quiet night when I got around to it. My boss told me to look it over on my own time, but, well, that wasn't happening. So, at around 2 a.m., I finally began watching. It took a lot of fast-forwarding until I finally got to something. We were right. The old security guard, Chris, literally got up and left at exactly 2:17 a.m. that night. Even weirder was that he left all his shit behind. He just walked away. Okay, I thought. Shit happens, whatever. I kept watching until the break-in at 3 a.m. Some medium-built dude dressed in a stereotypical burglar outfit, ski mask included, took a baseball bat and smashed through the front glass door. I'm pretty sure that Chris never even looked at it behind him when he left, so that was a waste. Oh, also, our alarm didn't go off because we didn't have one. Cut costs wherever you can, eh? Well, it's a wonder that I still work here, given the fact that some guy could literally break in, stab me to death, and the cops wouldn't even know about it until the morning. But, well, that's beside the current point. The intruder walked in and entered the stairwell, so I tracked him. A bit of a complicated process, but I finally found him on the 6th floor. That's when he took out what looked like a wire. I felt my skin crawl a bit upon seeing that. There's only a few reasons as to why a person would carry wires around in their pockets, and one of them stands out as being particularly unsavory. He started making his way down the corridor, in a manner that I can only describe as methodical, purposeful even, as if whoever he was stalking was not yet aware of his presence. Moments later, the door to a room up ahead of him flung open. He reacted quickly, ducking into an adjacent hallway as somebody else came out. And let me tell you, I was not prepared for who it was. It was me, a near replica. I say near because the guy's face looked borderline emaciated, while his clothes barely clung to his limbs. I was more of a muscular build myself, but I had been skinny before. I knew what I looked like. And that was it. My copy was wearing what looked like some kind of white heavy-duty jacket. Almost looked like something a soldier would wear in an Arctic climate. On top of that, there was a large streak of red covering his chest. Probably doesn't take a detective to figure out what it was, given the circumstances. Well, he also appeared to be exhausted, with one bony hand holding the wall whilst he was doubled over, exhaling like hell. Eventually, he started moving, stumbling towards the intersecting hallways where the mystery man was presumably waiting for him, hands clasped around the wire. I found myself instinctively reaching for my phone to call 911 when I realized this wasn't happening in real time. But even if it was, how was I supposed to describe the situation? As my copy passed by, the mystery man pounced on him, but it seemed as if he was anticipating it, my copy that is, and a vicious struggle ensued. Despite my copy's frail appearance, he still managed to hold the upper hand against the mystery man for a while. Let me tell you, I sure as hell can't fight like that. The combination of the military-grade jacket and the hand-to-hand training that this guy clearly practiced yielded a few possible avenues of explanation. But I was going to need a lot more info in order to really understand what was going on here. Despite being pounded on for a good few minutes, the mystery man eventually landed a lucky uppercut that staggered my copy. He quickly took the opportunity, rushing and forcing the wire around his neck until he went limp. That struggle ended. What followed was interesting. He dragged the body back to the room that my copy had come out of and shut the door behind him. I fast-forwarded up until today. Nobody else came out. Nobody went in. There was nothing I could do for the rest of my shift but just sit there, absolutely floored. The next day, my boss asked me what I'd seen. I told him a fabricated version of what had happened, that some dipshit high school kids in masks broke the door down for fun. Nothing we can do about it beyond installing an actual security system. He said he'd look into it. Yeah, sure he will. Now, I considered just forcing myself to forget about it. That would have yielded more sanity, but some things are just too bizarre to overlook. During my next shift, I decided to take a look at the 6th floor myself. I assumed that it'd just be a bunch of cubicles up there, but I was obviously interested in one specific room. Once up there, I started walking around. It almost felt surreal being in a place where something so strange had just happened. In fact, it got me questioning whether or not I'd just lost my mind for a few minutes, and if anything on that tape was even real. But I got my answer when I saw the stain on the carpet. It was barely noticeable, but I knew what I was looking for. A speck of blood from the struggle. I wasn't sure whether it was from my copy or the mystery man. I kept going down the corridor, trying to locate the room that my copy had come out from. On the footage, it was pretty evident that it had to be the 4th door on the right. I tried the handle. Locked. And then I tried something that would most certainly cost me my job. But I rationalized it by realizing that if anyone was ever going to watch the tapes, it was once again going to be me. I kicked the door down and headed in. It was a conference room, but one that looked to be under renovation. There were dry paint cans, an unfinished carpet job, and dry wall covering the walls, but nothing unusual. Yet, there was bound to be something here. For the first few hours that I stalked the room, I couldn't find anything noteworthy. The other way out of the room was a stairwell exit, so it was reasonable to assume that he simply escaped through there. I was about to give up when I stumbled upon something hidden under one of the desks. A device of sorts. Well, maybe. Couldn't really tell you. Despite being rather small, it was incredibly heavy. A cylindrical-shaped metallic item. It was smooth all around, save for a few buttons that did nothing when I pressed them. Oh, and a dried, bloody thumbprint. Wonder who that belonged to. I stood there, trying to decipher the particulars of the item for an indistinguishable amount of time, but an abrupt noise jarred me back to attentiveness. Footsteps in the hallway. Footsteps getting closer. I was not doing my job. A few ideas regarding the identity of the intruder ran through my head. Obviously, none of them were good, and one of them was really bad. In any case, I made a beeline for the stairwell, and I took the metal thing with me. I didn't go back to the building until about 5:40 a.m., 20 minutes before the end of my shift. To my surprise, the new glass door that we'd installed was still intact, but I definitely knew that I'd heard steps out in the hallway. Maybe they'd found another way in. Maybe I'm just going insane. Well, I'm still holding the device in my hand. What am I going to do with it? No freaking idea. But I do know what I'm doing next. Time to pay a visit to the old security guard. Chris has to have some kind of answer here. I never knew Chris all that well. He was a work friend at best. But I knew where he lived, and that was all the information that I needed. I went over to his place and knocked. No response at first. Didn't really know what I was expecting, in all honesty. But I stayed put in my pursuit for answers, continuously pounding on his door. I mean, wasn't it kind of peculiar that he conveniently quit on the night that the break-in took place? Well, I must have stood outside his door for about 20 minutes. Logic would dictate that he simply wasn't home, and I was beginning to believe that, until I heard a noise on the other side. It sounded like somebody accidentally knocking over a pair of shoes. Oh, this ass was silently staring at me through the peephole. "Chris, open the damn door," I said, in a borderline threatening tone. Still no explicit response. He wasn't doing a great job of concealing the fact that he clearly knew something about what had happened, and then he slipped a piece of paper under my door. In messily scribbled writing, this is what it read. "Can't tell you anything. He'll know." Okay, I thought to myself, that doesn't sound good. I tried knocking for a few more minutes before his neighbors started poking their heads out. I decided to leave before somebody called the cops on me, but I wasn't planning on dropping this. I ran the facts through my head as I walked home. He'll know. I didn't want to admit it, but those words greatly concerned me. Who the hell is he? I stewed on these thoughts as I made my way up to my apartment. But when I got there, I realized that I may have fucked up big time. My lock was busted and my door was half open. Call me a pussy, but I dialed 911 immediately. The cops came over in a reasonable amount of time and began the investigation. All in all, the only thing that was taken were $50 in cash that I kept in my drawer. Well, that's what they put on the official report, after all. But that wasn't all to the story. There was something else that was missing. The device. In retrospect, the fact that I took it in the first place was a dumbass move on my part. No shit it was going to have some kind of tracking system in it. I didn't even know what the hell it was. This posed a conundrum for me, of course. It was, presumably, the mystery man that had broken in. He knows where I live. He also tried murdering somebody who looked just like me. Safe to say, I was probably in danger. The cops said that they would station a vehicle outside my apartment complex in order to keep an eye on me for the night. I wasn't really sure how effective that was going to be, but it couldn't hurt, I suppose. But still, I didn't sleep. That night there was a knock on my door at around 2 a.m. I nearly shit my pants. But then I heard, "Police, open up," coming from the hall. I looked through the peephole, and it was indeed the two cops that had been assigned to wait outside my building. One of them chuckled when I opened the door. "How the hell did you do it?" he said to me. "How'd I do what?" I asked in confusion. He simply scoffed and then abruptly cuffed me. Although tired as hell, I still relentlessly questioned them about what the hell they thought I'd actually done. It was only when I'd waited for half an hour in an interrogation room when a detective came in and gave me the answer. Apparently, I'd entered the building that I worked in, knocked the new night guard unconscious, and broken into one of the upper floor rooms. They also showed me the proof. Security footage of exactly what they described happening. A person in a stereotypical burglar outfit waltzed in just as the new guard was locking the door for the night. They got into a fight. The mystery man won, but not before the guard managed to rip his ski mask off. Split seconds that displayed his exposed face yielded all the evidence that they could ever need. It was me. Again. The footage then tracked him all the way up to the 6th floor, where he entered a room. Guess which one that was. He was also carrying a bag with him the whole time, and it really wasn't a mystery regarding what was in that either. The last recorded footage caught him running out of a fire exit. I couldn't even begin to attempt to answer the detective's questions. I know I didn't do it. Well, you know what I mean. I just kept trying to analyze what kind of situation this put me in. If the mystery man that I'd first seen was also me, then that means there had been at least 2 copies of me out there. And they were trying to kill each other. Then the situation with Chris made more sense. Maybe one of my copies had threatened him. The answer has to be in that device. "Hello?" the detective barked at me. "You listen to me, Mr. Case?" No, I wasn't. He sighed. "Look, we're just trying to figure things out. What was the plan here?" I reciprocated a sigh. "I don't freaking know." That entire conversation, understandably, produced 0 conclusions. The detective stepped out and left me alone with my thoughts once again. But no matter how I framed this situation, it was always inexplicable, beyond my comprehension. I sat in shocked silence for about 15 more minutes before the rabbit hole was dug even deeper. I started hearing commotion out in the hallway, and then gunshots. The detective suddenly rushed back into the room, looking confused as hell once he saw me. "How the f..." is all that he managed to get out. "What's going on?" I asked him. He just shook his head before coming over and pulling me up, all while I was still in cuffs. "Oh, we gotta get you out of here." He started directing me towards a back exit while some kind of hell was going in the background. At this point, gunshots were going off left and right. We were just about out the door when I saw a bullet go through his skull. I made it out just before him, so I didn't suffer the same fate. But I did see who'd done it. It was my copy, staring blankly at me and standing at the other end of the hall. He fired off a few more shots at me, but they were stopped by the door. Fueled by perplexed adrenaline, I simply started running. I wasn't really sure where I was going, so I just ducked into a nearby forested area. Once there, I hid myself in some bushes. I stayed there till sunrise, and luckily my copy never found me. I heard police sirens all night. There was bound to be a lot of explaining to do if they ever caught me. However, I'm sure they'll be just as confused as I am once they view the security tapes inside the police station. Once I'd convinced myself that the coast was clear, I got up and tried figuring out where I was. It was an excruciating process, trying not to be seen by anyone, given that I still had handcuffs on, but I eventually managed to find my way. I went to somebody who I knew could help me out in this situation, my friend Jack. Now, Jack was a drug dealer, and before you judge me for being friends with a drug dealer, let me preface that by saying that he only sold weed and cocaine, and he's never killed anyone before. I'm pretty sure of that. It was about a 3-hour walk from the city to his farmhouse, but I eventually made it, finally getting the damn cuffs off in the process. Now, he asked questions, of course, questions that I could not answer. Right after shoveling some food down my throat and smoking a joint to calm me down, I went on the internet and looked for any news coverage about the incident. I can't estimate how many cops were killed, but it seemed like there were a lot, so this should have been a big story. But there was nothing. At first I found a few detailing some vague incident near the location of the police station, but after a few refreshes, they disappeared. Somebody was trying to hide this. I can't speculate what's really going on here, but Maybe they know something that I don't. It's probably better for me that my face isn't plastered across every TV screen in every local diner. But this also begs even more questions. I'll try and explain the situation to Jack later. Maybe he'll believe me. Maybe he'll think I'm a freaking loon. But as for right now, I don't see a ton of options. My copy's probably searching for me right now. The events that have transpired over the past week have taught me that I really don't know much about the world. But I do know one thing. I couldn't stay at Jack's anymore. The few days I've been here have pretty much consisted of me simply lounging around. I'll admit it, I'm scared shitless to go back into the city. All I know is that my copy hasn't been tracking me. I'm not entirely sure how he found me at the police station, but what matters is that he can't seem to find me now. But a new problem has presented itself. I think somebody else is looking for me. Last night I was having a cigarette on the back porch when I noticed some kind of disruption in the crop field. It was dark, and I wasn't paying really good attention, well, initially, so I didn't catch it until it was uncomfortably close. Something was moving around in there, making its way toward the house. I was on extreme edge at that point, so I immediately ran back in. I told Jack what I'd seen, and he subsequently stormed out there with his shotgun. I waited, tensed, for what felt like about 15 minutes, and then I was jarred by a booming slug, and then another one. Jack rushed back in, eyes frenetic, and locked the door behind him. "What the?" he said, sounding petrified. "Don't tell me they're after you." "What'd you see? Did it look like me?" I asked him. He shook his head. "What? No. Like some dudes in body armor or some shit. I don't know. Look, if they're after you, then you best speak up." That was the issue. I didn't know who the hell he was talking about. The situation suddenly escalated when I saw flashing red and blue coming from outside. The cops are here as well, presumably drawn in by the gunshots. "Oh, frickin' Christ," Jack blurted out. "All my shit's here. They better not snoop around." And then he turned to me. "Look, if something's going on with you, then you should probably leave." "Leave?" I asked him, in disbelief. "There's cops out front and weird armored people in the back. Where am I supposed to go?" He shrugged. "I don't know." We could hear heavy footsteps making their way up to his front door. "Oh, suppose you could take your chances and hide here. Can't stop you now." And then they started knocking. I made my way upstairs while Jack opened the door and talked to the cops. As I hid in one of the bedrooms, I eavesdropped on the conversation. It started out calm enough, but it escalated rather quickly. All of their voices started raising at an exponential rate. It sounded like Jack was on the defensive about something. I could make out what he was saying, albeit barely. "There's no one here." All of a sudden, footsteps began storming up the stairs. I didn't have time to ask, what the hell? They were looking for me, and for too many obscure reasons to probably count. I opened the window and jumped out before they could find me. While I was out there, I considered attempting to steal the police car, but I suppose I wasn't really balls enough for that, so instead, I simply started running. I knew that there was another town that was about a 2-hour drive from where I was, but in terms of walking, well, let's just say that I had a trek ahead of me. After about an hour of walking along the empty road at night, a truck stopped for me. Now, under normal circumstances, there was no way in hell that I would have gone with this freaking guy. To put it bluntly, he looked like a serial rapist. But the situation at hand seemed to necessitate it. Plus, it started to feel like I was being followed again. "Going somewhere, bud?" the driver asked, with a black-toothed grin. I smiled back. "Yeah, you down to give me a lift?" Unsurprisingly, he didn't go where I was directing him, instead leading me down some sketchy trail. I started anticipating where my first move was going to be. I'd taken a pocket knife from Jack's house and was clutching it in my hand as he drove. I decided that the time was right when he stopped us in front of a rusty shack. "All right," he said, sounding comically foreboding. "Time to get out." I could see him start reaching into his pocket, but I was faster. One jab to the ribs and he was screaming. I followed up by elbowing him in the face and dumping his squirming body on the ground outside, but not before I took his wallet. As I started driving away, I could see about 4 more equally sketchy-looking dudes coming out of the shack. I shuddered, not really wanting to think about what they had in store for me. In any case, I had bigger issues at hand. I drove to the town that I was talking about earlier and used some cash I'd taken from the guy's wallet to rent a motel room for a few nights. Whilst I was sitting in my dingy accommodation, I started trying to put the pieces together. My copy was trying to kill me. There are multiple versions of my copy. There were dudes in armor roaming around Jack's crops. The cops were looking for me. And, well, I really couldn't go back to my apartment. Nope. I had no freaking clue where this was going. Feeling frustrated, I decided to head out for a few drinks. This asshole had about $600 in his wallet, so I was going to splurge on a few Heinekens. I'd also found a small revolver in his truck, so I took it with me. Safe to say, I wasn't feeling that safe. I made my way over to the tavern and sat at the bar. I ordered 2 beers and some chicken wings, because, well, why not? Just as I was getting relaxed, the bartender seemed to recognize me. "Hey, you again," he said to me. Oh, God, no, I thought to myself. Apparently my copy had been here earlier, presumably looking for me. "How long ago?" I asked him. Looking confused, he responded. "About 10 minutes ago. You don't remember?" 10 minutes. Shit. Feeling a bit nauseous, I went to the washroom and weighed my options. I suppose that it made sense to stay, given the fact that the copy had already left. He wouldn't have any reason to come back, right? As it turns out, wrong. Out of nowhere, I started getting a headache, and my vision went wonky. I could still see, but my sight was distorted. Best way I can put it. Well, it quickly subsided, but the nuisance was replaced by sounds of commotion coming from the bar. It sounded like somebody was arguing about something. It sounded like I was arguing about something. It was my voice. It was him. The bathroom door suddenly kicked open and somebody walked in, eventually coming to a stop right outside my stall door. I wasn't taking any chances. I pulled out the revolver and fired off 2 rounds right then and there. I was met with surprised, labored groans as I climbed out up top. I landed right beside him, right beside my copy. This was the first time we'd stared each other down directly. Staring into my own hate-filled eyes was something of an abstract feeling. Sure as hell didn't feel right. The headache and vision problems began coming back. I could tell it was affecting him as well. It also looked like he was wearing a bulletproof vest, so, well, that explained why he was still standing. Fight or flight, I thought. An extremely quick deliberation yielded flight. I fired off another round at him, the bullet narrowly grazing his ear, before running the hell out of there, into the confused and horrified faces of the bar patrons. Behind me, he fired off a few shots of his own, but luckily none of them connected. Zigzagging my way through the streets and alleys, I took a convoluted route back to the motel parking lot, where I got into my commandeered vehicle and floored it out of there. I only made it about a half hour before the shitty truck broke down. It then took 2 more hours of walking in order to reach civilization again. Another small town, another dingy motel. And that's where my current situation has placed me. Obviously, I don't see an end in sight here. I'm on constant high alert, adrenaline fueling my paranoia. I think it's paying off, honestly. I've seen the same black sedan drive past my window about 4 times now. Yep, the black sedan is definitely on my ass. How many people are chasing me at this point? I couldn't find any spare revolver ammo in the truck, and I don't think buying a gun is feasible right now. Not like my shooting was any good, regardless. The sedan just made its 7th trip past my window. Are they just taunting me at this point? It certainly feels like it. Also, I've been experiencing some weird shit. Not like the headaches or anything, but sometimes I'll blink and the lights to my room will suddenly become darker, or a window will move over a few inches. What do they call these? Glitches in the Matrix? Well, add them to my laundry list of problems. I've been forcing myself not to sleep, since I reckon these guys could probably just break in and shoot me in the head at any time. They know I'm here, so I honestly don't know what they're waiting for. I've considered running off, but where am I going to go? They're obviously tracking me somehow, so it seems fruitless. I never remembered falling asleep at any point, but I must have, given the fact that I was jarred awake by gunshots. I rushed over to my window and looked outside, seeing the sedan now riddled with bullet holes, and guess who'd done it? Yeah, it was my copy. I'm not sure if he thought it was me inside the vehicle. Maybe he had multiple targets. Whatever. He was certainly after me now. I could feel another headache coming on. Not only that, but the room around me seemingly started to shrink. Still in a reasonably cogent state of mind, I told myself that it wasn't real. I knew that it wasn't real. It all came to a head when I saw a shadow passing by the curtains. In a rather irrational move, I fired a shot at it. Not really sure what I was thinking there. Probably just pent-up frustration. I simultaneously missed and gave away my position. Still reeling from the headaches, I ran into the bathroom as I heard my door being knocked down. He was in. I hid in tense silence as I heard him walk around the bedroom. This wasn't going to work, I thought to myself. There weren't many rooms that he had to go through before finding me. Only 2 bullets left. I grasped the revolver as he approached the bathroom door. The last room that he hadn't checked. The door suddenly flung open, and I took my last 2 shots. Both misses. I was cornered now, and my headache was reaching near unbearable heights. In a last-ditch effort, I tried tackling him. Thankfully, it took him by surprise, and we went tumbling back into the bedroom. But, well, that was about the extent of the fight I put up. I didn't have any combat experience after all, either on foot nor on the ground. He delivered a few blows to my stomach, and I was suddenly laid out on the carpet, with him standing over me, aiming a pistol point blank at my temple. "Wait," I asked him, trying to come to terms with my obscure loss. "Look, you won, but could you do me a small favor? Please explain to me what the hell's going on." He lowered his gun slightly before smirking. "Yeah, sure. Least I could do." So, I got my answer, but I'm still not entirely sure if I fully understand it. He is me. Not a clone. We were one and the same, just from different realities. He explained how the universe that he'd come from was considerably further ahead, technology-wise, than mine. Far enough to the point where they'd perfected a form of dimension hopping. But in his world he was also a criminal, a large-scale thief. His most recent endeavor? Stealing one of the devices that would allow somebody to traverse to different realities. Things went messy during his plan, and he was forced to use the device in order to orchestrate an extremely convoluted escape. And ultimately, he ended up here. But the problem with entering different realities lies in the fact that there will likely be another version of you, and that directly goes against the laws of the natural universe. You see, he and I are identical, but at the same time, we're not. There are subtle differences that set the realities apart, and when they start bleeding together, even in the slightest, well, the universe just can't accept it. At first, the problems are marginal, but the longer that 2 different versions of the same entity exist in one reality, the worse it gets. not just for the two involved, but for the reality that they're inside as a whole. That's why killing you was top priority for me, he said to me. Nothing personal, that's a given, but I can't evade the fuckers that are trying to chase me if this reality begins falling apart. You've felt the headaches, haven't you? Seen the visions? That's the universe saying that one of us has got to go. I can deal with everything else later, but for now, he raised the gun once again. Well, this needs to end. Oh, for fuck's sake. I put my arms up in a defensive gesture. He hadn't explained everything yet. Like, why was there more than one copy of us in this reality? Like the one he killed when I first stumbled upon the security footage. But, well, we never had a chance to get to that. Drop the gun. A booming voice suddenly came out of nowhere. At first, I thought it was the police, but I threw that idea aside as I caught glimpses of who it was. 4 large men wearing what looked like expensive militarized suits of armor were pointing massive armaments at us. Across their chests were the white letters NC. My copy sighed. Shit. Before looking at me, eyes filled with annoyance. Now look what you've freaking done. The armored men talked among themselves before one of them approached us. He took out some kind of device with a holographic screen. Look into this, he said to me. Without much of another option, I obliged, staring into the center of the screen as the thing seemingly scanned my face. After a few seconds, it was over. He's the correct version. Take the other one away, he said, before putting the device away. The rest of the men restrained and led my copy out the door. I could barely react as all of this was happening, simply standing dead still until the sun came up. When everything was said and done, I finally went back to my apartment, still in an extreme state of shock. I haven't made any contact with the police, nor have the police attempted any contact with me, so I'm not really sure where that's going. I suppose I should be glad that this whole ordeal seems to have been concluded, but there's one thing that still disturbs me. The last I saw of my copy, he was smiling. So another weird and wonderful effort there from Mr. Outlaw. Haven't done one of his stories for quite a while, as I said, but there are a few series coming up. Some that he's finished, some he's still working on, and I am delighted to say that I have permission to record them all for you, and they will be coming up in the next few weeks, let's say, whenever I get around to it. Well, enough for me for this Monday evening. I, of course, will be back again on Wednesday with another fantastic tale for you all. You're going to join me, aren't you? Yes, of course you are. Until then, sweet dreams and bye-bye. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time listening to me. Now, if you enjoyed the Dr. Creepen experience, then come find me on Facebook. Come chat with me on Twitter. Listen to the background music and download it if you like on SoundCloud. Drop by the store, pick up a t-shirt. And, importantly, if you've got a story you'd like me to read, send it to Dr. Creepen's Vault, the subreddit I set up so that I could read your stories. Now, looking forward to seeing you all again real soon. So, come check me out, okay?